Welcome back to Oh, That's Fucking Adorable, the series where I talk about things that don't go so well so you can learn about them and not replicate the exact same situation in your wholesaling business. Today, we are going to be talking about a deal that we just recently closed a couple of weeks ago, and the seller decided, I'm not going to move out of the house. Oh, man. Now, listen, there are always signs that there's going to be something that goes wrong during a transaction within the communication prior to closing. Now, we were on top of this. We were aware of all of the red flags that stood out to us. All right. But and I will say, I believe we did everything correctly in this transaction to prepare ourselves and try to eliminate anything negative from happening. But still, sometimes shit happens. So we'll talk about where did this lead come from. Okay, so this is a speed to lead coupon club lead, right? Acquisitions team locked it up, did a great job. Highly motivated seller. Price was slightly incorrect. Did a great job educating the seller. Got the seller to come down to the correct price. Got a signed contract. I actually dispoed this deal, which, funny enough, I do like very little dispositions. This might be like one of 2 or 3 deals this entire year that I will dispo myself. And the reason why I dispoed is because I was sitting on the couch and I was watching the Dallas Stars play, or actually I was waiting on the Dallas Stars playoff game to start. And our team in the team chat was talking about, hey, we just got the signed contract, congrats, high five, the funny gifs, everything like that. And the numbers of this deal were in the chat. And simultaneous to that happening, an in buyer inside of TU texted me, asked me a question, and I said, well, actually, funny enough, we're about to dispo a deal to you. And he said, well, what is it? And so I told him the numbers. He said, yeah, sounds great. Had some questions, went back and forth. 2 days later, we had a signed assignment. Boom. Deal is done. All right, transaction coordination's open, title's open. We're moving forward. Fast forward about 2 weeks, and it's 7:15 in the morning. I'm at the gym. I'm on the elliptical. Heart rate, my Whoop is telling me I'm in heart rate zone 4, which is like between, I think it's the 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate, right? I'm full workout. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good about myself, right? I'm getting that workout in, and my phone rings. And I know this because on the elliptical, I've got my phone sitting up so I can watch my Whoop and see where my HR zones are, because I got the new Whoop and it told me like, hey, I need to spend more time in HR zones 4 and 5. And so I'm doing the elliptical. And so I wanted to get a solid 15 to 20 minutes in HR zone 4. And so I'm just now getting up to that point. I'm in the groove and my phone starts ringing. And it doesn't say like potential spam or scam likely. It says a name. And it's funny because like I recognize the name, but I kind of don't. And I don't understand why I would recognize the name. And then, I don't answer the phone because 1, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:15 in the morning. And 2, I don't know who it is. And I'm in the middle of a workout. But then I get a second call, right? Again, from this same person. And so I'm like, all right, the fact that I somewhat recognize this name, I need to answer this call. So I answer and I'm huffing and puffing, hello, this is RJ, something like that. And it was the homeowner. It was the seller. And he said, hey, Is this RJ Bates? And I was like, yes, it is. And he's like, are you the owner of Titanium Investments? I'm like, yes, I am. And he's like, all right, well, I'm under contract with the Titanium Investments, but I'm talking to someone else. I've never actually spoken to you. Is this legitimate? Is this a real deal? Like, is cash really going to be in my bank account in like a week from now? And so I'm like, yes, it absolutely is. Now, funny enough, there was an agreement that the HVAC on this property was going to be replaced prior to us closing. The seller had told our acquisitions team up front that, hey, the HVAC's not working, but before closing, I will have that replaced. And then he came back to us and said, hey, I messed up. I don't have the money. I'm not going to be able to do the HVAC. And so we already knew that we had to get a price reduction that would account for the HVAC not being replaced. And then we were just going to give that exact same price reduction to our end buyer. So I was like, well, actually, now that I got you on the phone, I know that my team is needing to reach out to you about the price reduction it's needed. Now, again, I'm in the middle of a workout, sweating, huffing and puffing. And I'm in the middle of the gym, not really wanting to have this conversation. But I'm like, hey, while I got you on the phone, we need to come down on the price. So I get them to come down $7,500 for the HVAC. All right. So then I tell the end buyer, hey, we got a $7,500 price reduction. We'll just give you that $7,500. No worries. But this was the red flag. The fact that the seller felt like he needed to look up my information and call me and ask if this was legitimate. Here's the thing. It's a red flag because for whatever reason, he was concerned that we weren't legitimate. It almost always guarantees that the seller is going to do something to try to mess this deal up. Well, sure enough, the phone calls continue on a daily basis. When are you guys going to close? Can we close early? We kept telling them, like, hey, we're going to close, and we're actually going to close slightly before the closing date, but it's not going to happen today. It's going to happen on this specific date. So 2-3 days before closing, seller calls, wanting to know, when are we closing? Hey, we're closing on this day. And then he says, well, how much time are you going to give me to move out of the house? You need to be out of the house at closing. Well, I can't do that. I need time. Okay, well, there's been no conversation in regards to you needing a lease back. However, there was communication about you being out of the house. But all right, again, we had the red flag. Here it comes. Here's what we need to do. We need to give you a lease back. How long do you need? So the closing is going to take place on a Monday. We're going to give him a lease back until 5 p.m. on Wednesday. We tell him we're going to hold $5,000 in escrow. If he's out by 5 p.m. on Wednesday before, he gets the $5,000. If he's not, the end buyer is going to keep the $5,000. Because he said he only needed 1 day. He's like, it's not that much stuff. You know, I'm going to have movers. I'm going to have this. We had also invested out of our cut in a dumpster for him because he said he couldn't afford a dumpster and he just wanted to throw a bunch of stuff away. So we got a $400 dumpster delivered to his house. And we just ate that. We didn't charge him anything. We just $400 dumpster. There you go. All right, so closing goes down smoothly, somewhat smoothly. I mean, there was some little title issues with the docs and the wire being received on cutoff times and whatnot. Everybody got funded on Tuesday. However, there was a mistake that was made, and it ended up being crucial. The title company received the lease back, but somehow it didn't make it onto the settlement statement in the HUD, and it wasn't caught by anybody. It wasn't caught by us, wasn't caught by the seller, wasn't caught by the buyer, and it just was forgotten about. And so the $5,000 that was to be held in escrow was not. and it was wired to the seller. So now the seller feels like he has time to move out of the property, and the leverage that we had, which was that $5,000, has been lost because it was deposited to the seller. So Tuesday comes and goes. Wednesday comes. Buyer sends over his realtor to look at the property. Seller has not moved out. There's stuff all over the place. There's a U-Haul truck. There's just belongings out all over the front yard. There's people coming and going, but he's nowhere near moved out of the property. And so we start, obviously, our buyer's concerned. We start calling the seller. Seller's making excuses. There was rain. Movers screwed him over. All of the excuse plus the story is happening. These are all the reasons why he hasn't moved out. Then on Thursday, hey, are we going to be out today? Absolutely, I'm going to be out. Don't worry about it. Later that afternoon, nowhere close to being moved out of the property. And then he hits us with the bombshell. Well, you guys know they sent me all of my money. They didn't hold that $5,000 back. So we actually found out that the seller received that leaseback money from the seller. So we started reaching out to the title company, and we're like, hey, there was a mistake. And obviously they're like, how did this happen? We're like, how did this happen? They started contacting the seller. Luckily for us, the seller was pretty cool about this. He did answer the phone from the title company. And eventually he did wire the money back to the title company. So I do appreciate that. However, it took us a while to get to that point because we went all the way through the weekend, even into the next week, several days, and it eventually got to a point where over the weekend, he was still making excuses. I called the seller back. And I said, hey, this is RJ Bates. Remember when you called me and you asked me if this was real? Is the money in your bank account? He said, yes. I said, is it real? He said, yes, sir. Mike, then I need you to take this serious, and I need you to move out of the house. This is the arrangement that we had. It's the agreement. You called me worried whether or not we were going to perform, and we did. At this point in time, I need you to get out of the house, or we are going to have to go over there, and we are going to have to remove the belongings, and we're going to have you removed for trespassing on the property. And so eventually, about 48 hours after that conversation, he moved out of the property. Luckily, somehow the attorney at the title company did have him wire the money back. The end buyer ended up keeping that $5,000. And here's the moral of this story. There was a couple of mistakes that were happening. One, when the red flag came up with the conversation to me, we should have buttoned up all of the communication. We should have made sure everything was held in line. Every single closing that you ever have, make sure you review that settlement statement from front to back and make sure. Don't just go look to see if they have your assignment fee on there, but make sure everything is correct, including any leaseback amount. That was a mistake that we made internally. We don't make those very often, but we did. And of course, the one time we make that mistake where we don't check to see if the leaseback was held in escrow, we needed it held in escrow. And then when it comes to this level of communication, anytime a seller does not do what they are obligated to do in a transaction, do not just leave your end buyer high and dry. See, we were over the top communication with the seller, the title company, making sure that the buyer got what they agreed to on the leaseback. Everything from across the board, we made sure that it was handled. Even though the seller didn't get out in the time frame that he necessarily said he would or what the buyer wanted him to, it only cost us about a week. And realistically, this is over 4th of July weekend, so it really didn't hinder the buyer too bad because I don't think there was too much work going to be happening on a national holiday weekend. but it still was slightly embarrassing in how it all went down. There was mistakes that were made, but this is why I always want to share these with you guys so you can not replicate this in your business. So again, when red flags come up, button up that communication, double and triple check your settlement statements, and then also when mistakes are happening, own it, take that accountability, and make sure that you rectify the situation so you can keep that relationship with your end buyers. All right, guys, that's our episode of Oh, That's Fucking Adorable. Show me some love. Let me know if you've ever had a similar circumstance happen on one of your deals in the comments. Make sure you like today's video, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.